The pen fell from his hand. His fingers trembled as he flipped the final page of the contract, eyes fixed on the impossible clause staring back at him. It wasn't just a typo. It wasn't a clerical error. It was betrayal, bold, inked, and legally binding. Mark Kessler, the silent billionaire CEO and majority shareholder of Kessler Motors, stood rooted at the center of his own dealership's conference room, reeling from the shock. The contract he was supposed to sign that morning to expand the company's global footprint had been altered. His signature was missing, yet the deal had already been sealed in his name. Before we continue, if you are watching our video for the first time, please bless and support us by hitting that subscribe button, turn on your notification bell to get notified for more, share to friends and loved ones who love respect and justice no matter the cost. Where are you watching from? Please tell us in the comments. We love seeing how far our story goes. And to our constant viewers, loyal commenters, and amazing subscribers, thank you for being the engine that powers this platform. You are deeply appreciated. Mark adjusted his charcoal suit, masking his internal chaos. The buzz of the showroom continued beyond the glass walls, as unaware staff sold cars under the glowing Kessler Motors logo. But behind this clear partition, the foundation of everything he had built over 2 decades was trembling. A voice broke the tense silence. "Is there a problem, Mr. Kessler?" asked Gina Moretti, the head of legal operations, her voice crisp, eyes steady behind her black-rimmed glasses. Mark turned slowly. His silence said everything. Gina crossed her arms. Her smirk was slight, subtle enough to be deniable, but sharp enough to draw blood. "How long?" Mark asked, voice calm but taut. "How long what? How long have you been forging my authority?" Gina's expression didn't falter. She leaned forward, hands on the table. "You're always so busy, Mark. Delegation is key for someone of your stature. You taught us that. I simply ensured progress didn't stall. The board supports it." "The board doesn't own 52%. "I do," he replied, eyes narrowing. "Yet this deal gives controlling interest to outside investors. Without my approval." Gina's silence confirmed it. The trap had been set. The ink was dry. And Mark had walked in just seconds too late. But Mark Kessler hadn't made his billions by being soft. He turned, walked to the tinted window, and gazed at the lot. There, a young woman was being shouted at by a floor manager. She clutched a yellow folder to her chest, visibly shaken. A man nearby, possibly her father, stood in disbelief, watching as the manager's finger jabbed the air. "You're lucky I don't call security. You people think you can just walk in and—" Mark's blood boiled. The man in the blue suit, Alex, his longest-serving sales manager, had always had an edge, but this was pure venom. "You people," Mark repeated under his breath. He didn't need this today. But maybe, just maybe, this was the fire he needed. Storming out of the boardroom, Mark descended the steps into the lobby like a thundercloud. Gina followed cautiously. Alex didn't see him coming. "Is there a problem here?" Mark asked, his voice ice. Alex turned, paled, and straightened. "Oh, Mr. Kessler, I didn't realize you were in today." "Clearly," Mark said. He turned to the girl. "Are you all right?" She nodded, clutching the folder. "She was trespassing," Alex said quickly. "She brought in fake job documents." "Let me see those." The girl hesitated, then handed the folder over. Mark scanned the forms. Her name was Tasha. Her credentials were real. Her resume included a youth internship from a sister branch and glowing recommendations from former managers. The paperwork had today's interview appointment stamped and signed. She wasn't trespassing. She was scheduled. Mark faced Alex. "You owe her an apology." "No." Alex looked at Gina, then back to Mark. "Sir, Now." Alex's lips curled, but he muttered a stiff, "Sorry." "Louder." "I'm sorry," Alex said, his voice more audible. Tasha said nothing, still trembling. The man beside her, her father, Mark assumed, finally exhaled in relief. "Follow me," Mark said. Tasha blinked. "Sir." "You're here for an interview, aren't you? Let's make it happen." They headed back upstairs, Gina tailing reluctantly. On the way, Mark texted his private investigator. He wanted Gina's activity dug up, discreetly and quickly. The interview with Tasha was smooth. She was intelligent, articulate, and ambitious. She had walked 8 kilometers to make the appointment because she couldn't afford transport. Her mother had passed away. Her father was a retired mechanic. She wanted to prove herself. Mark gave her the job on the spot. "You start tomorrow," he said. "But today, I need your help." Her eyebrows rose. "With what, sir?" He smiled. "With saving this company." That night, in a dim cafe in the heart of the city, Mark met with Brandon Cruz, his old college roommate, now a corporate lawyer with no ties to Kessler Motors. Over coffee, Mark laid out the forged contract, his concerns, and Gina's growing influence over the board. Brandon whistled low. "This is a hostile takeover dressed up in company letterhead. Can it be undone?" "Not easily. But if you can prove fraud, especially collusion among board members, it could invalidate everything." Mark didn't sleep that night. The next morning, Tasha showed up an hour early. Dressed in a clean shirt, borrowed slacks, and worn-out shoes polished until they shined, she smiled brightly. "Ready to work." Mark handed her a USB stick. "I want you to cross-check all internal memos between Gina, Alex, and the board since last year. Focus on file edits, policy changes, unauthorized sign-ins. Anything that looks fishy." She blinked. "Are you sure?" "You're brilliant. I trust you." 4 hours, Tasha poured through data. Hidden folders, redacted memos, backdated file creations. At 2:37 p.m., she found it, an email thread between Gina and a shadow investor group planning the company's shift to private ownership, months before the deal was ever announced. The documents matched changes in legal documents she had cross-referenced from another office drive. She rushed to Mark's office. "Found it. It's all here. Dates. Names. Conversations. Proof." Mark read every line. By evening, Brandon had reviewed the data and declared it bulletproof. They planned a surprise board meeting for Friday. Gina walked in, unsuspecting, poised as ever. She didn't notice the investors who had slipped into the back. Nor did she register Brandon sitting beside Mark, wearing a wire. "We're here today to discuss recent irregularities," Mark began. Gina scoffed. "Irregularities? Or your refusal to adapt to change? Let's allow the evidence to speak." He projected the emails, the signed papers, the time-stamped file edits, the altered contracts. Gasps echoed. One board member turned to Gina, shocked. "You lied to us." "He's manipulating this," she shouted. Brandon stood. "Everything presented here is legally admissible. You're finished." Within 48 hours, Gina was fired, arrested, and charged with fraud. Alex resigned quietly before HR caught up with his prior misconduct records. Tasha. She became the youngest operations analyst in the company's history. She brought her father to every monthly employee dinner. Mark made sure she never had to walk to work again. And Kessler Motors. It rose from the scandal with a new brand campaign, driven by integrity. Moral lesson: power without character is a house of cards. Leadership isn't about titles, it's about trust. Racism, betrayal, and corporate sabotage have no place in our society. Every voice matters. Every act of courage plants seeds of change. This story was proudly brought to you by Elliot Stories. Catch you on the next one. We care at Elliot Stories.